Need everybody look at the screen, because everybody is now developing tutoring and mentoring programs. We have celebrities that's developing tutoring and mentoring programs. We have former presidents and CEOs of certain magazines that's now developing tutoring and mentoring programs. But I want you to look at this data. Take a couple minutes to read this page. So if the academic arena and the educational arena is being stressed or struggling in certain areas, what type of tutoring or mentoring program do you need to have in place? What type of training, whether paid or volunteer training, need to be in place that when kids come from an academic world or academic school and come into your tutoring and mentoring program, how are you going to properly equip them, educate them, and empower them through your tutoring and mentoring program? I just wanted to put that on your minds. You may go.
Vicki Brown from SOS Children's Villages of Illinois. I think my question would be directed to U.S. Department of Education, Ms. Jones. I'm from Lake County area, Gurnee, but in Lake County we have a resource book for individuals that need resource information on housing, support and all that. This room is full of information, mentoring and tutoring and youth programs. I was brought up in the all-girl rifle drill team, and that was back in the day when we had opportunity to do something and get involved. But is someone looking at putting some kind of manual together to introduce all these mentoring and tutoring organizations and a little brief, some type of directory saying what is offered? And I think probably the best website is from the education website, because we as individuals are uneducated as far as what's out there, what resources are available for our children, what help is out there for our children. And that's the first thing when someone gets killed or young youth gets killed on the street, oh, there was nowhere to go. No, there's plenty of places to go, but we as people don't know where. So we need some type of resource directory indicating what the programs are that are out there, and just the mission statement, vision statement, or wherever. Or maybe some of you guys up there have started that, or maybe I'll start it.
Can I speak to that real quick?
Yes, please.
The Department of Children and Family Services has a website that they recently started over the past couple of years.
Back here.
The Department of Children and Family. The Department of Children and Family Services has a web index that they've started over the past couple of years. Our agency recently received training on it, and they go out to different organizations and provide training on the website. Pretty much what it is a database that houses just community-based organizations that provide services. You put what you're looking for, you put the criteria that you're looking for a youth organization within a certain zip code, and it generates a list of all the organizations and what type of services and resources they have. So that may be something that you may want to look into. I can give you the contact person's information, because they do go out to community-based organizations. They do go out to schools and train staff and give you access to the database.
Okay, so then that brings me to my point. You guys have that, but do we have that? I'm just saying to get it out to the police department when they do their special training, get it to the faith-based community, get it to the youth organizations. I mean, if you have something, and then the rest of us can catch on. So whatever you have, if I look at that book and SOS Children's Villages in there, I'm like, okay, could you update? I want to be in that book. I want to be part of that village as far as being a resource to youth that need help in the community.
I think, and I can't speak for other state agencies, but I know specifically with the Department of Employment Security, a lot of our stuff is word of mouth. And so when we come to different organizations or different events like this, this is how we get a lot of our services. This is how we get the word out about a lot of our services. And it could be very similar with the Department of Children and Family Services, I don't know. But one thing that I know our programs do, we reach out to some of our partnering organizations and we tell them about the database. We tell them about the resources that we found. And so pretty much with a lot of resources in services provided throughout government, it's word of mouth, unfortunately.
So look at the screen and you'll see even in Massachusetts, a 6th grade teacher addresses the same issue. That's why I don't know if Dan is gonna do his model of mapping different youth, but that's another way from the internet to plot out where different organizations, whether faith-based or social, have different tutoring and mentoring programs. So if you missed that workshop, check with Dan. He might do it personally or he might run another one in May when they do his May conference. So that's an ongoing issue about circulating resources. Did anyone want to respond to that question before we move on?
I think just to piggyback, when I was working in the anti-violence project, we were working in 22 different neighborhoods in Chicago, and I think I can attest to the word of mouth. It's really effective. Unfortunately, when we have projects or when we have ideas, and then we plan to, for example, put information in a website or in a flyer, but we also have to consider, like you mentioned, we have to consider the fact that sometimes some communities do not have access to internet, do not have access to, for example, that flyer that is in a wall in this church, for example. So we have to consider that in mind, and it has to be in an individual basis as well. Take the responsibility of saying, you know what, there's something missing, there's a gap here. What can I do to fill that gap? So I feel that individually we can do amazing things.
Did anyone else want to answer that question?
It was her time to speak.
Okay, go. No.
I was just going to say that, yeah, you were right, Pastor, that you're in the right place today. This little booklet here, folder here, it actually has information specifically about what you talked about. And if you have a chance to go to this little corner back here, there's also more information specifically about what you talked about. And then number 3, this guy right here, he could take up your whole day talking about what you talked about. So the information is here. You are definitely in the right place today.
All right, 2 things before we move to the next participant question. If you're in the city of Chicago, you need to make sure you contact the City of Chicago Community Engagement Office, because the budget said that was passed on Tuesday that it includes 310 after-school programs. So once again, for every organization that's in the city of Chicago, the budget that passed on last Tuesday said it would include 310 after-school programs, which means you need to get engaged with the City of Chicago Community Office. And this is what I mean by engagement. It took me 2.5 years for Proviso Township District Office and faculty to realize they need a before and after school program. So on October 25th, they enacted the Proviso Township Supplemental Educational Tutor and Mentoring Service, starting off only with kids that receive free lunch. But it's a start. So if you're serious about children and you serious about youth, it ain't no you send an email out or you send a letter 1 week. No, you got to be consistent and persistent if you really want to impact the lives of students and youth. Next question.
I think a lot of times tutoring and mentoring gets used interchangeably. So I would like to know from our panelists, how do you find that programs work better when they are a mentoring program or a tutoring program, or finding that bridge to create a tutor mentoring program? Thank you.
think it's beneficial to make a distinction between the two, because even from the child's perspective, is it time for academic work, or is it time to, mentoring has that relational component, and sometimes when you're dealing with academic work, there may be a tendency of the child to be more playful during the time if you're doing tutoring. So I think that distinction is helpful both for adults and for children. That's my personal.
Thank you.
I think for us, we made it clear that our program is mentoring, and tutoring supplements the mentoring that we do, because for our mentors, we want them to be able to remain engaged and get the supports for the kids. We don't want them to be stressed with having to tutor them in terms of academic. We want to make sure that whoever their tutors are skilled at being able to do the tutoring, and the mentors are left free to just continue to mentor. So personally, we feel that it's best to have a tutoring component maybe to your mentoring program.
Thank you.
To be honest, I feel that mentoring doesn't necessarily have to be being in front of a classroom or following a certain curriculum. I feel that mentoring is just a lifestyle, and it's something that is done through tutoring. It's something that is done through teaching. It's something that is done through different levels. So I think I don't think that it's something that can be put in a blanket and say this is going to work with everyone and everything. I feel that it's more just individually.
Reverend, did you have anything to say?
I did.
Oh, okay. I want to share some quick data from the Children Defense Fund. It's based on calculations per school day out of 100 days of a 7-hour week. 6,916 public school students are suspended. 1,317 babies are born to unmarried mothers. 936 high school students drop out. 442 public schools are corporally punishing their kids incorrectly. That side was called Each Day in America for minorities. This side says Moment in America for minority students. Every 4 seconds in a public school, a student is suspended. Every 27 seconds, a high school student drops out of school. Every 57 seconds, a public school student loses his way. So my question to the panel will be, since many students grow up in a culture that's driven by fantasy of television, movies, videos, as well as the internet, where this environment may encourage bad attitudes, bad actions, bad ambitions, and bad agendas, which leads to disrespect, how does your before or after school program deal with this adolescent patterns? Yes.
This is for the panel. Go to the panel, please.
Yes.
Go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you go to the panel, ask your question.
No. I had a comment with that.
Oh, sure. What's your comment?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am the founder and director of the Knights of Omega Mentoring Program. I mentor high school boys throughout the city of Chicago, no matter what school they go to. I have boys from Providence St. Mel to Hyde Park to Hirsch to Mount Carmel to TS South to Evergreen Park. We meet on the campus of IIT. To answer your question directly, first, when we get those negative things that I found out in the 2 years that I've been doing this, I have to start with, for black boys, the respect for womanhood. Ground zero. That's where I go. I go in and I go in hard with that. With the images that we have out here, radio, TV, and the street, you have to start there. And you get to that by starting talking about their relationship with their moms. You gotta get to that. Once you find out what that is, you start to build have to build. I participated in the Celebrities Weekend, Steve Harvey's weekend. And I got into it with a young man. And he said, he was very disrespectful to me, and I went there. And I stopped and said, talking to a kid. He said, I don't care about you, my mama did. Okay. Mr. Williams didn't mean a thing to him. So the respect for womanhood, to get to the crux of the matter, that's where it lies.
Thank you. Panelists?
One of the activities that we like to do is for the raunchier songs or raps that are out, we have the students write out what the lyrics say. And then we find maybe an adult woman to be there with the youth, and the student read what's on those, what those lyrics are. Just read them, not rap them, just read them. And you'll be interested to see what type of, I mean, of course it doesn't work across the board all the time, but most of the time they'll be like, whoa. And then the girls too, they'll be like, I didn't know it was saying this. So that's one of the things. And another thing that I just want to point out, and we've been having ongoing discussions about this at a couple of, well, at a church house. So is it so different than when we grew up? Yes, it's more blatant, and yes, it's more accessible, but is the message really so different? And I'm just going to leave it at that.
1 minute response, because Dan said we got 10 minutes left.
Yeah, I think from the perspective of the faith community, there's a passage in Scripture that tells us that we should be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And that does not mean that, coming from the perspective of the faith community, that everyone needs to believe what I believe, theologically. But I do have responsibility, we have responsibility to challenge how the culture thinks. And I think the role of the faith community needs to be one of a positive, transformative agent. When you look throughout history, many of the great reforms and transformations that have happened in our society have been started by the faith community, the Civil Rights Movement, the Salvation Army, many of our great universities in this country. And so I think that is the one responsibility, is really getting young people, particularly, to think about what you're thinking about, right? So what, to my brother here, to your point, think about the songs that you're saying. What are the words that are coming out of your mouth, and what does that really mean? And what does it mean when you call your friend this name or that, or when you talk this way about a young lady or a young man? And young ladies, are you objectifying yourself? So really getting them to think about, what do you think about yourself? What do you think about your peers? Because I think that has some moral implications on how we view humanity.
Sir, do you want to respond? Next question.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Dushan Sharma, Bhakti Yoga Society. And my question has to do with the challenges the immigrant population is facing and is going to be facing coming to America, being here in America now, and like personally speaking from a street level perspective, I can say that there are some people who are very strongly, just pick up the last question, embracing the hip hop culture very, quickly with the pants lowered and different aspects of it, right? So, how, or are there any programs that are going to be impacting, or taking charge to make sure that the immigrant population doesn't fall into some of the same pitfalls that our native population is facing at these times?
Thank you. 1 minute response.
I think I want to, just looking back, for example, I was born here, but I grew up in Mexico. So when I came here, I was 10 years old. And I remember the first time I was pulled over by a police officer, he actually thought I was being disrespectful to him because I wasn't looking at him in the eyes. For me, I was giving him all the respect I knew because in my culture, if I looked at my dad in his eyes, I would be challenging him. So I would look down as a sign of respect. But in this culture, it was different, so that was a conflict. So I think we have to keep in mind culture. I think we have to suspend judgment and keep an open mind. One of the things that we do in the mentoring programs that we did, for example, in the mentoring program at Harper High School, is not coming in judging or or criticizing, but more sharing our testimony. So I feel that's important. Why? Because to become vulnerable, you open up and they see the truth. And now you're able to build that relationship.
Before we do that, I want to show this pictorial of this individual that cries out for tutoring and mentoring.
As a boy, I shared a game with my father. Played it every morning till I was 3. He would knock on my door and I'd pretend to be asleep till he got right next to the bed. Then I would get up and jump into his arms. Good morning, Papa. And my papa, he would tell me that he loved me. We shared a game. Knock, knock. Until that day when the knock never came. And my mama takes me on a ride past cornfields on this never-ending highway till we reach a place of high, rusty gates. A confused little boy, I enter the building carried in my mama's arms. Knock, knock. We reach a room of windows and brown faces. Behind one of the windows sits my father. I jump out of my mama's arms and run joyously towards my papa's, only to be confronted by this window. I knock, knock, trying to break through the glass, trying to get to my father. I knock, knock as my mama pulls me away before my papa even says a word. And for years he has never said a word. And so 25 years later I write these words for the little boy in me who still awaits his papa's knock. Papa, come home because I miss you. Miss you waking me up in the morning and telling me you love me. Papa, come home because there's things I don't know and I thought maybe you could teach me. How to shave, how to dribble a ball, how to talk to a lady, how to walk like a man. Papa, come home because I decided a while back I want to be just like you. But I'm forgetting who you are. And 25 years later, a little boy cries, and so I write these words and try to heal and try to father myself. And I dream up a father who says the words my father did not. Dear son, I'm sorry I never came home. For every lesson I failed to teach, hear these words. Shave in one direction with strong deliberate strokes to avoid irritation. Dribble the page with the brilliance of your ballpoint pen. Walk like a god and your goddess will come to you. No longer will I be there to knock on your door, so you must learn to knock for yourself. Knock, knock down doors of racism and poverty that I could not. Knock, knock on doors of opportunity for the lost brilliance of the black men who crowd these cells. Knock, knock with diligence for the sake of your children. Knock, knock for me, for as long as you are free, these prison gates cannot contain my spirit. The best of me still lives in you. Knock, knock with the knowledge that you are my son, but you are not my choices. Yes, we are our father's sons and daughters, but we are not their choices. But despite their absences, we are still here, still alive, still breathing, with the power to change this world, one little boy and girl at a time. Knock, knock, who's there? We are.
We have closing remarks. 2 minutes.
A study that was done in Africa on orphan elephants. The life cycle on the orphan elephants. It's a cycle when they get into a certain age where it becomes a moss cycle. A moss cycle is the equivalent to puberty in our young age. These orphan elephants, for the elephants, it's so critical to have the bull elephant involved in the life cycle of the elephants to teach them life skills. These orphan elephants in Africa didn't have that bull elephants, and they became violent. The cycle began. Usually that cycle lasts 2 days. The cycle began for them 1 day, 2nd day, 3rd day, 4th day. The cycle didn't stop. The researchers brought older elephants to teach. Those elephants, they will see a rhino and they will kill the rhino. They will fight almost to the death. They will see a tree, they will rip out the tree, they became violent. The researchers brought in older elephants, and in 2 days, those elephants changed. In 2 days, mentoring program is critical. That's an analogy, using those elephants. If that happens to elephants, what happens to our young people? There's a critical time in our young people that rely so much in mentoring. And I think this video hits it on the nail. We have to say, this is who I'm present. What can I do? So thank you. It's an honor. I know all of you are involved in mentoring, and God bless you for that.
Thank you.
I would say just to you all that are here and who are doing this work, your work is tremendously important. So continue your work. I know it can be draining, it can be tiring, it can be frustrating, and all of those things. One of my mentors used the term wonderfully confusing and miraculously difficult, and so I know how that can be. But I would just say to you all, there's a generation out here that needs us. There's a generation out here that is coming up that needs us, that needs our influence, that needs mature, caring adults, that needs the organizations that are doing this work. And think of those who impacted your life as you were growing up, and think of what your life would be like without their presence. And that's what this generation faces.
I would just like to close with a challenge. And the challenge is to find out the true story of the youth that you serve. Find out what their real story is. And I bet you will find out more than you ever thought. And you will understand why some of them act the way they act and why some of them are so great. And start collaborating with others. There's this old quote, I don't remember who wrote it, but if you have a penny and I have a penny and we exchange pennies, you still have a penny and I still have a penny. But if you have an idea and I have an idea and we exchange ideas, we both have 2 ideas.
I'd just like to say that the situation on our streets is traumatic. Our kids are suffering trauma each and every day. And so you can't believe that youth who suffer trauma can become our future leaders. I am a youth who has suffered trauma. I sit here today as a leader. If I can lead, they can lead. So let's all help.
And to the panelists, I would like to say thank you for your time, talents, and treasures. And to all the participants that had additional questions, when we conclude, just grab the panelists and ask them your question individually, because I'm big on time. And I'll close with these last words. When life, work, and people pull you down, as they often will, when the battle you're fighting is all uphill, when the funds are low and the debits are high, when you're laughing, although you'd rather be crying, when you discover yourself slowing down a bit, stop and take a deep breath, but don't you quit. How often you'll find that you come so far, yet you cannot stay where you are. You'll need twice the efforts to make your way. Tomorrow won't come till you conquer today. You'll discover yourself slowing down a bit. Stop and rest if you must, but don't you quit. Always do the best you can possibly do. Treasure your friends, they are far and few. Never give up, never give in to the burden you bear. Just one more step might get you there. Success is the belief that you cannot fail. Remember, when life, work often press you down a bit, stand up and shout, I will not quit, because my faith is on my side, just waiting to show up and show out. Thank you for your participation.